Staff Sergeant Emily Carter crouched behind the sandbags at Forward Operating Base Echo, the desert heat shimmering off the plywood and metal containers around her. She methodically checked her Macmillan TAC-50, running her hands over the cold metal, feeling the slight warmth from the sun, making sure the Leipold Mk4 scope was perfectly seated and the rings torqued to spec. Dust clung to her sleeves and boots as a light breeze stirred it into the air, reminding her that the desert could be unpredictable. She adjusted the bipod, leveled the rifle, and tested the trigger, each movement precise, deliberate, and practiced thousands of times before. From a short distance, Lieutenant Commander Jason Whitaker, a 42-year-old SEAL with 2 decades of operational experience, watched her with arms crossed and a skeptical frown. He had faced elite operators in his career and had yet to meet one who handled extreme range precision like Emily. His eyes followed her hands, the way she aligned her scope, and the calm steadiness in her posture. The mission briefing was clear, but the pressure was immediate. A high-value Taliban commander was moving through the hills more than 3 kilometers away, and every second of hesitation could cost them the chance to engage. Whitaker knew the terrain offered minimal cover, and that any direct assault would expose SEALs and Army personnel alike. The alternative, relying on a sniper at this range, was risky but surgical. And right now, Emily was their best and only option. Emily's mind was focused on wind speed, temperature, and the angle of the shot. Her heartbeat remained steady, each breath controlled as she visualized the trajectory, compensating for shifting thermals rising from the valley floor. Around here, the team moved quietly, double-checking gear and confirming communications. Radios crackled softly in the background, but she didn't flinch. Every step, every check, every calculation was a rehearsal for this moment, and she had trained for scenarios exactly like this. The sun had climbed above the horizon, casting sharp shadows across the base, and the desert heat radiated from every surface. Emily felt the weight of the rifle, the significance of the mission, and the eyes of her commanding officer on her, questioning, yet observing, anticipating, and perhaps doubting. She allowed none of it to affect her focus. She knew the rifle, the optics, and the calculations were in her control. What happened next depended entirely on precision, discipline, and calm under pressure. And she was ready to prove that all the training, the experience, and the resolve had prepared her for this. The desert held its breath with her, waiting for the first shot. Emily Carter grew up in the wide-open spaces of rural Montana, where the sky stretched endlessly above pine forests and rolling hills. Her father, a former Marine Scout sniper, introduced her to the fundamentals of precision shooting from a young age, teaching her how to control her breathing, maintain trigger discipline, and remain steady under pressure. She remembered the afternoons at the family property where her father would patiently correct her stance, gently guiding her hands on the stock of an M40 and later a Remington 700 he had carefully built and bedded for precision. Every lesson was meticulous, every repetition deliberate, laying the foundation for the discipline she would carry into her adult life. Her mother, a high school mathematics teacher, approached her training differently, showing Emily how to calculate ballistic coefficients, account for windage, and understand the Coriolis effect at extreme ranges. These lessons turned shooting into a precise science, blending instinct with calculation. By the time Emily was in her teens, she was hunting in the Montana wilderness, testing her skills in real conditions and learning to read the terrain, the wind, and the behavior of her quarry. At 15, she could reliably call wind shifts at 600 meters, and by 18, she had won 2 national junior long-range competitions. These accomplishments caught the attention of Army recruiters, but Emily sought more than competitions. She wanted a challenge that matched her skills and desire to serve. At 19, she enlisted and pursued a path into combat arms, insisting on sniper training despite suggestions to join intelligence or logistics. Emily arrived at Army Sniper School at Fort Benning as the only woman in her class, facing instructors who did not go easy and peers who initially questioned her place. She approached each exercise with focus and resilience, outshooting many of her classmates by the second week and graduating third in her cohort. Her training emphasized fieldcraft, camouflage, observation, and precision shooting, all of which she absorbed and applied with methodical efficiency. Following graduation, she was assigned to a long-range interdiction unit that embedded with SEAL teams for joint operations, handling missions that required extreme distance engagement when standard tactics were insufficient. The combination of her upbringing, early exposure to disciplined marksmanship, rigorous mathematical understanding of ballistics, and the mental toughness forged through competition and military training created a sniper capable of executing missions few could attempt. Emily's precision, calm under pressure, and unwavering focus under the most demanding circumstances formed the bedrock of her confidence and determination, ensuring that when she faced the challenge at Forward Operating Base Echo, she was fully prepared for what lay ahead, ready to make the kind of shot that demanded both skill and nerve. The mission briefing began early in the morning at Forward Operating Base Echo, with Lieutenant Commander Jason Whitaker standing before a projected map that highlighted the location of Bashir Nazari, a high-value Taliban commander known for coordinating IED networks across the province. The SEAL team and Joint Task Force members listened closely as Whitaker outlined the original plan, a night fast rope insertion onto a nearby hill, followed by a close-quarters assault on the compound. The terrain was rugged, with steep ridges and limited approach routes, and any misstep could expose the team a kilometer out, leaving them vulnerable to observation and enemy fire. The risks were high, and the intelligence team had flagged the plan as potentially catastrophic if anything went wrong. An alternative had been proposed, one that would minimize exposure while still achieving the mission objective, a precision sniper shot from extreme range. Emily Carter was assigned as the shooter, and the distance exceeded 3 kilometers. Challenging even the most experienced snipers, Whitaker observed her with cautious skepticism, aware that handling the Macmillan TAC-50 under combat conditions required not just skill, but absolute focus and calm under pressure. He questioned whether the shot could be executed effectively given the shifting winds, the angle of the valley, and the mobility of the target. Positive identification and the rules of engagement had been confirmed at the command level, and a quick reaction force was staged in case the operation went awry. The Joint Task Force coordination ensured that all elements, including ground teams, drones, and communications, were synchronized to maintain operational security and efficiency. Emily's demeanor remained calm throughout the briefing. She listened intently to the tactical assessment, reviewed the environmental data, and considered the trajectory, wind conditions, and potential obstacles. Every detail of the mission, from the distance to the timing of the target's movements, was absorbed and processed with methodical precision. She understood the stakes, the operational challenges, and the consequences of success or failure. Whitaker's scrutiny did not distract her. Instead, it reinforced the seriousness of the task and the need for flawless execution. The briefing concluded with clear orders, confirmation of communication channels, and final checks on equipment. Emily walked out of the room, focused, mentally rehearsing the calculations, visualizing the shot, and preparing for the extreme precision that would be required. The tension in the room lingered, underscoring the difficulty of the task, the extreme skill necessary to succeed, and the gravity of the mission ahead. The stage was set, and all that remained was execution. Staff Sergeant Emily Carter moved silently across the rocky ridge with Corporal Ryan Hayes, her spotter, following closely as they carried their gear toward the designated sniper firing position. The desert sun glared overhead, casting heat waves that shimmered across the valley below. Emily carefully set the Macmillan TAC-50 on the sandbags, ensuring the bipod was stable and the rifle perfectly level. She adjusted the Leipold Mk4 scope, checking that the rings were torqued to specification and that the optic was aligned precisely for extreme distance targeting. Every movement was deliberate, honed through countless hours of training, and executed with methodical care. Hayes powered up the ballistic computer, while Emily ranged the target with a laser rangefinder. The distance registered at 247 meters, a figure that tested the limits of operational sniping. Emily began feeding atmospheric data into the system, including temperature, barometric pressure, humidity, and the angle of the valley, while Hayes observed mirage and thermal shifts that distorted the view of the compound. He called out corrections in tenths of mils, adjusting for inconsistent winds and the rising thermals off the desert floor. Every calculation, every adjustment was crucial, as even the smallest error could send the round off course. Radio communications crackled softly, connecting them to Longshot and the command team. Coordinated callouts ensured that the target's movements were tracked and that timing for the shot would be precise. Emily's calm focus never wavered as she verified each input, cross-checking the ballistic solution with her spotter's observations. The environment demanded extreme attention: shifting sunlight, subtle changes in wind, and the faint tremors of the rocky ridge beneath them. She maintained her breathing and her composure, knowing that her preparation was the key to success. The team waited, tension hanging in the air. Knowing that every detail mattered, Hayes continued to provide real-time updates. Emily adjusted her aim, and the rifle remained steady despite the anticipation and heat. The desert seemed to hold its breath with them as they coordinated adjustments, merged calculations, and prepared for the defining moment. The technical complexity and the precision required were immense, but Emily's methodical process and unwavering concentration demonstrated the discipline and expertise that only a sniper of her caliber could achieve. The stage was set for the longest, most demanding shot of her career, and every action, every calculation, would determine the outcome. Staff Sergeant Emily Carter sat on the edge of her cot inside forward operating base Echo, the metal frame cool against her hands. The low hum of generators filled the background, punctuated by the distant thump of rotor blades as Chinook helicopters landed elsewhere on the base. She allowed herself a moment to reflect, to let her mind travel back through years of training and combat that had prepared her for this precise, high-stakes mission. She remembered her father in Montana, kneeling beside her at 12, showing her how to control her breathing, steady her hands, and respect the rifle's power. Those lessons were patient and exacting, teaching her that control and discipline were far more important than brute strength. Her time at Fort Benning had been a crucible. As the only woman in her class, Emily had faced instructors who questioned her abilities and peers who doubted her place in the sniper course. Every range, every field exercise, every night of observation and calculation had pushed her to prove herself, not for recognition, but to earn the respect that came from consistent excellence. She recalled the first time she neutralized a Taliban spotter at 900 meters in Kandahar. The shot had been clean, précis, but the weight of taking a life had left her physically drained and emotionally aware of the responsibility carried by a sniper. She had vomited behind a HESCO barrier, not from guilt, but from the clarity of control and consequence that precision required. Now, as she prepared for the extreme distance shot, Emily felt that same focus sharpened. Skepticism from Lieutenant Commander Whitaker and the weight of the mission did not distract her. They reinforced the necessity of composure. She reviewed environmental factors in her mind: the angle of the valley, the gusting winds, the mirage rising off the desert floor. Every past victory and lesson reinforced her calm under pressure. She drew on years of discipline, from Montana hunts to Fort Benning courses, to combat engagements, understanding that her preparation and mental resilience were the foundation of success. Anticipation built quietly alongside confidence. Each breath measured, each thought aligned with the task ahead. In the stillness of the FOB room, surrounded by distant mechanical noise, Emily was ready. Her mind and body were poised for the moment that would test everything she had learned. The long-range shot that demanded every ounce of skill, focus, and resolve she had cultivated throughout her life. Emily Carter settled into position, her body perfectly aligned with the Macmillan TAC-50. The bipod anchored firmly on the sandbags. She drew a slow breath, letting it fill her lungs before exhaling in a measured rhythm, steadying her heartbeat against the tension that filled the valley. Corporal Ryan Hayes sat beside her, his spotting scope trained on the compound where Bashir Nazari moved among his men. Every detail mattered. Emily adjusted the Leipold Mk4 scope, compensating for the mirage that danced in the heat and calculating the angle of the shot over the uneven terrain. Wind gusts shifted across the valley floor, and she mentally factored in each change. Considering the subtle thermals rising from sun-baked rocks, Hayes called out adjustments in tenths of mils, his voice calm over the radio. And Emily incorporated each correction. She ran through the sequence she had practiced countless times: breathing, settling, alignment, trigger control. The rifle was an extension of her body, every movement deliberate. She felt the weight of the round in the chamber, the tension of the action, the precise timing required. The target was mobile, and every second counted. Her eyes, focused through the scope, tracked Nazari as he moved into the courtyard, unaware of the force that would reach him in seconds. The shot broke cleanly. Emily managed the recoil with practiced technique, bringing the rifle smoothly back onto the target for immediate observation. The bullet traveled across 247 meters. 4 seconds that stretched longer than they should have. Falling exactly on the predicted trajectory, Hayes confirmed impact, voice steady but tinged with awe. Radio traffic buzzed with verification, and Whitaker, observing through the drone feed, stood frozen for a moment, absorbing the impossible. The commander's eyes widened with respect, disbelief, and recognition. The precision was absolute. The target collapsed center mass, and the compound erupted in chaos. As Nazari's men scattered, Emily and Hayes maintained composure, clearing the rifle, logging data, and ensuring the position remained secure. Every calculation had been correct, every adjustment precise. The coordination of environmental data, ballistic computation, and disciplined marksmanship had resulted in a flawless shot. In that valley, among the rocks and the heat shimmer, the full magnitude of the achievement became clear. Years of training, mental focus, and technical mastery had converged in a single, extraordinary moment. The team's respect was earned, the mission objective completed, and the story of skill, patience, and courage written in the desert dust. Emily remained calm, methodical, and precise, the embodiment of every lesson learned and every challenge overcome, leaving all who witnessed the shot in awe of both her technical skill and her composure under extreme pressure. Emily Carter returned to Forward Operating Base Echo as the late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the sandbags and metal containers. The desert air was thick with dust and the low hum of generators, but inside the base, a quiet energy pulsed through the teams as word of her shot spread. Lieutenant Commander Jason Whitaker approached her with a measured stride, his posture more open than it had been during the morning briefing. The skepticism that had marked his every glance now softened into acknowledgement, his eyes carrying respect and an unspoken recognition of the feat she had accomplished. Whitaker presented her with a challenge coin, a symbol of honor within the SEAL and Joint Task Force community, an emblem that required merit and earned recognition. He detailed the commendation, noting her professionalism, technical expertise, and composure under extreme pressure. Emily accepted it with quiet precision, her hands steady. The weight of validation settling in her palm. This was not about ego or proving herself. It was affirmation that her skill and dedication were seen and valued. Other units began requesting her support for Overwatch missions, aware of her extraordinary capabilities. Her peers and commanders treated her with a renewed respect, and Emily moved through the base with calm professionalism, fully aware that her record-setting shot had shifted perceptions. The atmosphere was subtle but tangible nods of acknowledgement from fellow soldiers, brief exchanges of congratulations, and the unspoken admiration that ran deeper than words. Every interaction reflected the culmination of her training, resilience, and determination. The base carried a sense of satisfaction that was not loud or performative but resonant. Emily felt the emotional payoff of years of perseverance, the relentless practice, and the countless moments where she had to maintain focus under pressure. She observed her teammates as they carried out their tasks, recognizing the shared understanding of what had been achieved and the weight of the technical skill involved. Her achievement had elevated the operational capability of the unit and reinforced the importance of precision, discipline, and professionalism. In that moment, Emily felt a quiet triumph. The respect she had earned from Lieutenant Commander Whitaker and the entire task force was not just for the record-setting shot, but for the embodiment of skill, patience, and composure she demonstrated consistently. She had proven that excellence demanded focus, preparation, and calm under pressure, and the acknowledgement she received reflected the lasting impact of her performance on those around her. The base, alive with subtle admiration and professional camaraderie, became a space where achievement and respect intertwined seamlessly. Staff Sergeant Emily Carter's story offers lessons that reach far beyond the desert sands of Helmand Province. Her journey illustrates that skill, preparation, and patience are far more important than appearances, preconceived notions, or assumptions about gender or background. From Montana to Fort Benning and into the field, Emily demonstrated that consistent practice, careful calculation, and mental focus are the foundation of mastery, and that recognition comes not from bravado, but from proven competence. Her achievements underscore the value of discipline, attention to detail, and calm composure. Especially under the intense pressure of life and death missions, teamwork and coordination were central to her success. Working seamlessly with Corporal Ryan Hayes and the Joint Task Force, Emily leveraged each member's skills, integrating observational data, environmental calculations, and communications with command elements. The synchronization of spotter and shooter, along with adherence to rules of engagement, positive identification, and QRF readiness, ensured operational success and minimized risk. Her story shows that following proper military procedures and respecting the chain of command is not a formality, but a critical element of mission accomplishment. Emily's accomplishments also carried broader implications about overcoming doubt and obstacles. She had to navigate skepticism from instructors, peers, and commanders, yet her persistence, competence, and professional conduct gradually earned their respect. The universal lesson is that challenges, whether technical, environmental, or social, can be surmounted through preparation, focus, and the mastery of one's craft. Achieving operational goals and personal growth requires resilience and unwavering commitment to excellence, and true respect is earned through consistent demonstration of capability and composure. The impact of her achievements resonates beyond the immediate mission. It highlights how competence and professionalism inspire admiration and confidence, elevating both individual and team performance. Emily's journey is a testament to perseverance, demonstrating that preparation, precision, and mental discipline create outcomes that exceed expectation. Her story encourages reflection on the importance of patience, focus, and the quiet, steady work required to achieve mastery. It is a reminder that recognition and success are not granted lightly, but are the product of dedication, skill, and the courage to act decisively when the stakes are highest. In the end, Emily Carter exemplifies the enduring values of professionalism, skill, and resilience. Her story leaves a message for anyone striving for excellence: remain disciplined. Trust your training. Collaborate effectively. And let results speak louder than assumptions. Mastery is earned. Respect is deserved. And determination can turn challenges into remarkable achievements. Thank you for watching the story of Staff Sergeant Emily Carter and her extraordinary sniper mission. Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know where you are watching from, because we love hearing from viewers around the world. If you want more stories that highlight skill, perseverance, and overcoming doubt in high-stakes military operations, subscribe to the channel for updates. Reflect on Emily's focus, determination, and calm under pressure, and consider how resilience and preparation can shape your own challenges. Engage with the story, connect with the journey, and be inspired by the power of mastery and discipline.